My name is Alara Voss, and 3 months ago, I was just another overworked astrophysics postdoc at the Lunar Observatory, staring at starfields until my eyes burned. I lived for the quiet hum of telescopes and the rare ping of a new exoplanet confirmation. Romance? That was for people who had time to swipe right. I barely had time to eat. Everything changed on the night of the Perseid storm. I was alone in the primary dome, running a routine spectral analysis on a faint signal from the Kepler 452 system, something the automated filters had flagged as possible technosignature noise. At 2:17 lunar time, the signal resolved into something impossible, a perfect, repeating sequence encoded in prime numbers, followed by coordinates. My coordinates. Not Earth's, not the observatory's, mine. My exact latitude and longitude on the surface of the moon, down to the centimeter. I should have called my supervisor. Instead, I suited up and walked outside. The object that landed wasn't a ship in any human sense. It simply unfolded out of nowhere, like a flower blooming in fast forward. Petals of liquid silver hardened into a graceful, asymmetrical craft no bigger than a city bus. A hatch irised open, and he stepped out. He was tall, 2 meters at least, with skin that shifted between deep indigo and star-speckled black depending on how the light hit it. His hair was a cascade of white gold fibers that moved slightly even in vacuum, as if stirred by a wind I couldn't feel. But it was his eyes that stopped my heart, twin galaxies, literally swirling with faint nebular clouds. He raised one 6-fingered hand in what I desperately hoped was a peaceful gesture, and spoke directly into my suit comm in perfect English laced with something like harp strings. Dr. Alara Voss, my name is Kyle Etherian of the Lyran Dominion. I have crossed 432 light years because the Oracle chose you as my eternal bondmate. Will you come with me? I laughed. It came out as a choked static burst in my helmet. You, what? Is this a prank? Who put you up to this? His expression didn't change, but the stars in his eyes dimmed slightly, as if saddened. This is no jest, Alara. The Oracle of Lyra has never been wrong in 9,000 cycles. It saw your mind across the void, the only one whose neural resonance matches mine perfectly. Without you, I will die within 1 of your years. I should have run. Instead, I asked the stupidest question of my life. Die how, exactly? The bonding sickness. Our royal line requires a perfect harmonic match to stabilize our higher dimensional physiology. My father lasted 11 months after the Oracle failed him. My brother lasted 8. I have perhaps 12. He extended his hand. His palm glowed faintly, projecting a holographic image between us, 2 spiraling DNA-like strands, one human, one clearly alien, snapping together like puzzle pieces, emitting a perfect golden light. I stared at it for a long minute, then the first did what any rational scientist would do. I fainted. When I came to, I was inside his ship, still in my suit but breathing normal air. The interior looked grown rather than built. Curving walls of pearlescent material that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Kale Etherian, Kale, he'd insisted, knelt beside me, looking genuinely terrified. You're awake, good. Your physiology is more fragile than predicted. Thanks for the vote of confidence, I muttered, sitting up. Where are we? Orbiting your moon. I can return you immediately if you refuse the bond. But please, let me show you something first. The wall in front of us dissolved into a view screen showing Earth from high orbit. Beautiful, fragile, blue. Then it zoomed out, showing the solar system, then further, until the Milky Way was just a spiral among millions. This is what waits, he said quietly. Worlds of crystal oceans, cities that sing, libraries that span continents, and me, dying slowly while my people watch their crown prince waste away because the one person who can save him said no. I swallowed hard. And if I say yes, what happens to me? You become my equal in all things, princess consort of the Lyran Dominion. You would never age as your people do. You would see wonders humanity won't discover for millennia. And, he hesitated, the first crack in his regal composure, you would save my life. I thought about my tiny apartment in Luna City, about my mother's Alzheimer's back on Earth, about the grant proposals I'd been writing that would probably be rejected anyway. Give me 1 day, I said finally. 24 hours to say goodbye. Then I'll decide. He bowed his head. 1 day, The next 24 hours were chaos. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency. I video called my mom and cried more than I meant to. I packed one small bag with things I couldn't bear to leave: my grandfather's antique telescope lens, the worn paperback copy of Contact I'd read until it fell apart, a flash drive with every photo of Earth I'd ever taken. When Kyle returned, I was waiting outside the dome in my civilian jumpsuit, bags slung over my shoulder. "I'm probably insane," I said. "Probably," he agreed, smiling for the first time. It transformed his face from regal to devastatingly human. The journey to Lyra Prime took 3 subjective days in his ship, which apparently folded space like origami. We talked constantly. He taught me about his world's 3 moons and the way their alignment created music you could feel in your bones. I taught him about coffee and why humans found rain romantic. On the second night, ship's night anyway, we sat in what he called the observation garden, a dome filled with bioluminescent plants from 100 worlds. The plants responded to emotion, shifting colors as we spoke. "You're not what I expected," I admitted. "What did you expect? Horns? Scales? Something more alien, I guess." "You're too perfect. It's suspicious." He laughed, a sound like wind chimes made of crystal. "We spent millennia perfecting genetic aesthetics, but perfection is boring. Your imperfections," he reached out, brushing a finger over the freckles across my nose. "These are exquisite." My breath caught. When he leaned in, I didn't pull away. Our first kiss tasted like starlight and ozone. We arrived at Lyra Prime during the Festival of 3 Moons. The planet was breathtaking, oceans that glowed turquoise, floating cities connected by bridges of light, and in the distance, the imperial palace that looked grown from a single massive crystal. The welcome was not warm. Kyle's mother, Empress Regent Lyralia, was a vision in silver and ice. Her eyes were the same swirling galaxies as her son's, but colder. "A human," she said in perfect accented English. "The Oracle has a sense of humor." "Mother," Kyle warned, "the Council will never accept this. The Dominion spans 40 systems. We cannot have a primitive as consort." "She's not primitive," Kyle said, stepping partially in front of me. "Her people achieved fusion in less than a century. They walked on their moon with chemical rockets. And her mind," he turned to me with such pride it made my chest ache, "her mind sings in perfect harmony with mine." The Empress's expression didn't soften. "The bonding must be tested publicly. If she fails even one trial—" "She won't," Kyle said firmly. "There were 3 trials, ancient traditions dating back to when the Lyran royals first mastered dimensional shifting. The first trial was the mind merge. We had to link consciousness completely, sharing every memory, every secret. I saw Kyle's childhood, the pressure of being heir, watching his father waste away, the terror of knowing he might share that fate. He saw mine, growing up in small-town Ohio, losing dad to cancer, burying myself in stars because people were too complicated. When we separated, both of us were crying. The watching priest declared it the strongest merge in recorded history. The second trial was the heart's truth. We were separated into different rooms and questioned by telepaths. They asked the worst possible questions, about fears, about desires, about whether we'd sacrifice the other for our own people. I was honest, terrifyingly honest. Yes, I was afraid. Yes, part of me wanted to go home. But no, I wouldn't trade Kyle's life for anything. Not Earth, not humanity, not even my own mother. When they brought us back together, Kyle's hands were shaking as he pulled me close. "You chose me," he whispered, "even knowing everything." "Always," I said. The third trial was supposed to be the easiest, the physical harmony, a simple blood bonding ceremony where our DNA would intertwine permanently. It almost killed me. Something in human physiology reacted badly to the Lyran bonding enzymes. My heart stopped twice. The priests panicked. Kyle roared at them to save me, threatening to burn the palace down if I died. They managed to stabilize me, but the damage was done. The Empress had her ammunition. "She's incompatible," she declared to the council. "The bonding will kill her within a year. Better to let the prince die honorably than watch his mate waste away." Kyle stood before the entire council, hundreds of nobles from across the Dominion, and did something unprecedented. He abdicated. "I will not be prince if it means losing her," he said, voice ringing through the crystal hall. I will not be emperor if it means ruling alone. Take your throne. I'll take my mate and live whatever years we have together on some distant colony where rank means nothing." The silence was absolute. Then a voice came from the back, a very old priest who'd been silent until then. "The oracle spoke truly," he croaked. "It chose not just a mate for the prince, but a test for the dominion. Will we cling to our prejudices or grow beyond them?" The vote was close, devastatingly close, but it passed, by 3 votes. I became Princess Consort Alara of House Vossitharian. They modified the bonding ceremony with human medical technology, which Kyle had quietly acquired during my one day on the moon. It worked, perfectly. 6 months later, I stood on the palace balcony watching all 3 moons align. The music was in my bones now, part of me. Kyle came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Regretting your choice yet?" he teased. "Every day," I said, turning in his arms. Regretting that I didn't say yes sooner, he kissed me as the moon sang, and somewhere in the distance, I could have sworn I heard Earth music mixed in, someone playing an old jazz recording from a human embassy that had just opened. We still fight sometimes. He doesn't understand why I insist on real coffee instead of the synthesized stuff. I don't understand why his people consider wearing shoes indoors a mortal insult. But every night he traces constellations on my skin with fingers that glow faintly, naming stars in languages that predate humanity. And every morning, I wake up knowing I made the right choice. The oracle was right. He chose me, and I chose him back, across 432 light years, forever.